The mission of the Inattentive ADHD Coalition is to ensure that children with inattentive ADHD are diagnosed by the age of 8 and that adults with inattentive ADHD receive prompt and accurate diagnosis when seeking help. To learn more about our mission and how you can help, visit iadhd.org.
I'm Catherine Ellison, and I'm a journalist and author of several books about ADHD, including the family memoir, Buzz, A Year of Paying Attention. I'm here with Terry Matlen, who is one of the absolute leaders of the field of ADHD, a terrific advocate, psychotherapist, coach, writer, and also a very creative person who paints and is a musician. I'm just thrilled to talk to you today, Terry.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you both for inviting me.
First, can we just start chronologically and maybe tell us about when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed, I think I was 41, maybe 42, so early 40s. And that was a long time ago.
Not that long. Why so late? Why do you think not till your 40s?
Back then, we didn't know much about women and ADHD. We just thought little boys in the classroom who were making trouble, getting the teacher's attention. Those were the kids who had ADHD, not women with ADHD. My diagnosis came, I'd say around the time that the first books were written on women with ADHD. So we're talking about Sari Solden's book, Women with Attention Deficit Disorder. And like many women with ADHD, my diagnosis came through having identified it in one of my kids.
That happens to millions of parents, I think. So when you did do that, did you look back and remember things that had gone wrong when you were that age?
My daughter's story is a little bit different than from most children who are identified and diagnosed and treated. She had a brain injury as a toddler. In my training as a clinical social worker, we weren't taught about ADHD. We learned about brain injury a little bit, but I had no idea that a brain injury can look like or include severe ADHD.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happened with her. But it didn't dawn on me that anyone else in my family could have ADHD because I still had that mentality of little boys have ADHD, not little girls. It's a daughter, and hers was due to an illness. So that threw me off for quite a long time until I started noticing things in her that I could see in me.
What kinds of things were those?
Well, different. Let me start off with the difference. My daughter had and continues as a young adult to have severe hyperactivity and impulsivity. I was not a hyperactive child or an adult, and I wasn't impulsive. However, what we're learning more about adults and women with ADHD is that I would say across the board in my work, if our bodies aren't hyperactive and impulsive, our minds are, our brains are. So what I saw in my daughter was when she was momentarily able to sit still, and I really mean momentarily, I could tell that her brain was all over the place. And that's how I always felt growing up. I couldn't stick to one thing. I had projects laid out on the floor in my bedroom. I wanted to learn this and wanted to learn that. And so even though hers played out quite a bit differently, for the most part, I did see these similarities. So she always had to be busy. She didn't have the inattentive so much as I did growing up and continue.
So what happened? How did you actually get diagnosed? Who diagnosed you and when?
I was very lucky. I lived in the suburbs of Detroit, and even way back then, which I can't remember the year, I just remember, I don't want to spend time thinking of the year, but it was early 90s. We were lucky that we were a hotbed of having clinicians available to us who understood ADHD. For some reason, we all collected in the Detroit area. There continues to be a psychologist local to me who I found out worked with adults with ADHD. It was unheard of in those days, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah.
He was close by. I had joined CHAD. He was running our local CHAD chapter. I reached out to him and he evaluated me and Yahoo!
You joined the club.
You got it. And I was fortunate. Yeah.
How did that change your life, or did it? It sounds like you've become a great ADHD activist, but beyond, was it helpful to have the diagnosis?
It was extremely helpful, but I have to tell you, Catherine, that in the beginning, I didn't believe him. A clinician myself, I thought, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. So I went for at least 2 other professional evaluation or consultations to confirm, and they all confirmed it. I did have anxiety as well. I have anxiety, but they said, no, core problem here is ADHD untreated.
So, isn't it hard know sometimes whether the anxiety creates the distraction or the vice versa.
Very much. Even now, in all the knowledge that I've had and all the work I've done in the field, I still don't do evaluations because it's so confusing. I leave that to people who have a better handle on evaluating and knowing, is this, like you said, anxiety? Is it depression? I'm very interested lately in trauma. People who have a trauma history look very much like they have ADHD. I don't want to mess with that. I let the others who are very familiar with doing that kind of work. In the beginning, I didn't believe. I just didn't. I went for the other opinions. It was confirmed. But then the difference for me than for many people who are going to be watching this is that then I took it and I flew. I felt so relieved knowing that there wasn't a character disorder or I'm just lazy or the
Moral failing, right? Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. There's an explanation that there's a brain-based issue here. So instead of going through a lot of grieving that a lot of women and men feel when they get their diagnosis, I had the opposite experience. That works for me. I decided in my field, being a psychotherapist, that's where I wanted to help people. I just went straight ADHD work because I could see how freeing it can be for someone to realize it's not that you're dumb. I had family members who thought they were dumb. I hate to use that word, but because they didn't do well in school and they were older, they lived their entire lives feeling inadequate because they had never heard of ADHD way back.
They can treat it, obviously. I guess that's a big reason why for women, there's so many accompanying disorders, like you say, anxiety, depression, sometimes suicidal behavior, because we, as a rule, don't get diagnosed on time. So that it stays with it.
Exactly. My goal in the work that I do is to start educating people who are where I was. I don't believe it. I'm stupid. Is to confirm and hopefully the diagnosis that they did get, if they could find somebody and help them through their journey, incorporating this new part of them that they never understood before. It's a lot of work to let go of how you see yourself. If you're an older, middle-aged adult, you grew up and it stays with you. It stays even with a lot of psychotherapy and coaching and accommodations. From what I see, a lot of women still carry even a little bit of that.
Oh, for sure.
It doesn't just go away. And I think it's important to clarify that to your viewers, that it's not a magic moment when you get the diagnosis and maybe go through a year or two of psychotherapy and have your coach and this and that. There are those voices that come up from the past.
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you take medication or what are your coping methods for your ADHD?
I tried medication, and because I have a very sensitive nervous system, I had trouble with it. I did take it when I wrote my first book, part of my second book. I had to have that laser focus, and it helped tremendously, but it was difficult for me to deal with the side effect of having too much caffeine. I'm very sensitive. So it was difficult. So no, on an everyday basis, I do not take ADHD medication. I wish I could. Oh boy, I wish I could see my desk right now. It wouldn't look like this.
I wish there were a magic bullet beyond medication, like one thing that you could do.
But I think what we have to do is look at things in a different, I know that we're going to be talking about creativity, but beyond creativity, even, we all have something that's wonderful. We just have to access it, find out what is it. Many of us have grown up thinking, oh, no, that's just a fluke. Oh, no, you don't really have that talent. You don't really have that personality trait that's so endearing. We have to learn to access that so that we don't become our ADHD in a negative way.
Oh, for sure. One of the biggest advice that I try to give parents is when you see your child flailing, find out one thing, even one thing that they're good at, and fan that flame. Encourage that in any way you can. What else do you do then? If you don't take meds, what are some of your coping methods?
A lot of it is really acceptance. It's acceptance. Okay, this is the card I was dealt or the deck I was dealt. It's not a death sentence. There's a lot of people way worse off than me with the challenges that they have. If you can't accept me for having a messy kitchen, then you don't really care about me. I am driven to find people who accept me for who I am, who can say, all right, so you have a messy kitchen. Or, okay, you didn't file your papers and your desk is messy. Those are my coping skills. Outside of that, I use planners. I have a system that works for me, may not work for another person. People are always asking me, the best planner? What's the best way? Everyone's different. Everybody's different. I rely heavily on Post-its. Every day I have a little Post-it note in my pocket with what I have to do today. And then I toss it when I'm done with it. So Post-it, visual reminders, as you can hear, that was a reminder that I have to give my dog the meds today. Otherwise, I wouldn't remember. I incorporate a lot of things that I suggest to the people I work with. Visual cues, having a person that I feel safe with to remind me is needed. Hey, today we have to be somewhere at 3. And then I have on my smartphone and my computer and my little Post-its. I rely on those. Does it make me a weak person or someone less able? I just have a different brain. That's all.
You have a partner who's very understanding.
Married over 40 years now.
Congratulations.
There was a learning curve. He has a very different way of approaching things. I watch him like, how do you do that? He just knows what he has to do for the day, and he doesn't get sidetracked. If he gets sidetracked, it's almost as if he does it purposely because he needs time off. It's not a distraction for him like it is for me and other people with ADHD. He plans his distractions. Let's put it that way.
I've been married almost 40 years myself, and my husband, one of the main differences between us is when I look at his wallet and I see that his bills are organized 20s.
And not upside down. They're all in the same. Yeah.
It's not something in my conception. Plus, he parks really well. He parks very carefully. He has patience, right? It's a wonder, but I feel like that maybe could be the one biggest key to coping with ADHD is to have at least one person close to you who gets you and is not continuously ranting about.
I was also lucky in that my mother, when I was growing up, that's the beginning of this whole story. She encouraged creativity in me and my 2 brothers. She was not the most organized person in the world, but she was highly creative. It was okay to build your self-esteem on your creative being.
Have you been painting all your life?
Since high school. I discovered I loved to paint when I was in a high school art class. The teacher was extremely supportive, and she was an excellent teacher too. That woke me up. Before that, I liked color in a coloring book, like lots of kids. But the idea of painting or drawing was beyond my scope back then, but it was high school. Around 16, 17 is when I discovered I loved it, and I had a fairly good handle on it.
Now, are you selling your paintings?
Yeah, right now I'm having my first solo exhibition in a large gallery in the area.
Well, that's great.
Before that, I've always shown my work from the time I was in college. I studied art in college before I went into work. From that point on, I was showing, and I live in the Detroit area. I showed in Detroit and Ohio and different areas. But this is my first big show, 21 paintings. That was, whoa. Talk about having to hyperfocus without meditation.
Can you describe them to us? What do you paint and what style?
This is really a difficult thing to explain because they're bizarre. They're like snippets of my imagination along with real life experiences. A lot of them have little figures in them of people. In this particular show, there's a self-portrait, but there's paintings of me as a child with my 2 brothers, different activities. They're not realistic paintings. It's almost like folk art. I'm very fascinated with symbols, Jungian symbols, psychology, the unconscious, fairy tales, dreams, daydreams. I think the ADHD kicks in because my type of ADHD, my flavor of ADHD is I'm all over the place. My imagination goes wild because I write also. You're a writer. I write, and we're writing poetry for the first time. And it really helps having ADHD because I can draw from all the things that I'm distracted by, and pull it all together to make a painting, or I write songs, or I write poetry. ADHD has been an asset. Now, I know that's not typical. People are coming to me when they're in pain. They're suffering. But I took much of my ADHD and it exploded in a good way. Not always. I'm not going to pretend I couldn't get dinners on the table at 5 when growing up, or even now. That was really rough. I can't keep my house together. Well, I can make a painting. For me, that's what saved me. It's having these other things that I do. I think the ADHD has been helpful. I'm not going to say it's a gift. No, I'm not.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Right,
fall
right.
into that category. I do.
I like the gift that's hard to unwrap.
Yeah.
It's the
I
best.
see so many people who are suffering terribly from their ADHD, and I don't think that they would ever call it a gift, even if they could unwrap and work with their challenges and their symptoms. I think they would all, the ones I work with, because people are coming to me in pain. There's a lot of people with ADHD who are doing very well. Look at all the entrepreneurs, billionaires out there, the creative people who found a way to use ADHD in a way that works for them. I don't tend to work with those folks.
Huge successes, although often they've got some kind of hurt inside that erupts at a certain point in their life and they can't keep it together anymore. But what is your main advice to the people that you coach to accept yourself? Is that the key for these very successful people?
I think that is part of it. Acceptance. Here's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. Everybody has something going on. They may not talk about it. It may not be evident. It might be completely internal. A lot of people with depression and anxiety hold it in, hide it from the outside world because they feel terrible shame, just like a lot of people with ADHD. So acceptance for those folks is also important. That these are brain-based, trauma-based thing, whatever it is, that's part of us. I can't say that there's a single person that's not carrying something.
For sure. Yeah. But with ADHD, it's almost like you have to cut through all these weeds that have grown up around it, the anxiety and the shame, then the actual ADHD, that much of an issue even.
That's why I think therapy is so helpful and so important for most people with ADHD, especially if you're an adult and you've just got years and years of negativity and hearing these comments about what's wrong with you. That's a lot of work. What you're describing is uncovering the onion of the layers of those voices that we incorporate and accept within ourselves and find that little nugget of, I happen to be really good at working with kids, or I'm really a caring person. I would love to be a nurse if I could just access that ability to get through school. That's what therapy can be so helpful. Coaching can be so helpful in helping adults with ADHD who are just frozen in time.
Yeah. What do you think? You seem like a tremendously resilient person. You've really bounced back from a lot. When you look back in your childhood, what do you find as the reason for that?
That's a really interesting question. No one's ever asked me that. I think I'm just a driven person. Whether that's related to ADHD, I don't know. I think it's my personality, and it could be because my father passed away at a very young age. He was 42, which left my mother in her 30s with 3 children to raise without a college education or any marketable skill. She was a dancer. She was a very creative person. We watch her parents. My mother never complained. She never made it as if, I don't know how we're going to do this, kids, or we're only going to live on macaroni for the rest of your life. She was capable of moving through difficult times. I think I watched her and modeled after her. Been a lot of tragedies in my life, my early life. I lost a father. My daughter, who was very ill, we almost lost her, things like that. You get through it. You do the best you can. I guess I am a resilient person and make the best of what has been handed to me, just like anyone else. I think the creativity thing has saved me. Being able to go in my studio and paint, I have a music studio too, play the piano, play the guitar, those things. And having luckily a spouse, that's another huge thing. Someone who's on your team.
Those are all huge. Yeah, for sure. I think the flip side of blurting out things and maybe doing impulsive things is that people with ADHD have less of those breaks. So that can also be a conduit for great ideas or lots of ideas because they slip through without getting censored.
That's what Ned Hallowell, have you ever heard his quote? I love creativity is impulsivity gone.
Oh, that's so cool. A lot of great quotes. Yeah. The Ferrari engine with bad brakes and the gift that's hard to unwrap. Yeah.
That one really speaks to me because there must be an impulsivity component to my ADHD because you can't make art and music and poetry and all that if you don't have some sort of impulsivity.
For sure.
That's
Yeah.
my take on it.
Yeah.
Or else you're a very rigid musician or a very rigid poet, but not the way I work. No.
You've also been such an activist for people with ADHD. Do you think the world still needs to understand us a lot better?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, but we haven't come a long way. That's how I look at it. I started doing this in the early 1990s. I started off as the local CHAD person, running the groups. And so it's been a long time. I still get the same questions from people, the same heartbreaks. Have we gotten far enough? No, no.
Yeah.
So my mission is to keep doing this until I drop, with the hopes that the younger ones coming up will continue doing the work. What we really need to do is, and it's so sad to me, is to continue teaching and teaching the professionals.
I think it's still so misunderstood.
It's not taught in school.
Neurodiversity in general isn't.
Yeah.
I
No,
think there's a lot more empathy for people with depression or even autism, right? There's something about ADHD, maybe the misbehavior and the impulsivity that just alienates people or makes people think.
I'm not sure what it is. I think that adults look at other adults and say, you should be able to do your laundry. There's nothing wrong with you. You look like me. You haven't been in the hospital, or you're not haven't lost a limb. It's that hidden disability. Same with learning disabilities. It's hidden.
Yeah.
It kills me to tell you the truth, Kevin. With all the work that me and my older colleagues have done, we're a dying group of people now. Where there's
Oh, I know.
you know what I mean? Some of us have retired.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
bunch of us have retired or just got tired. But we've come a long way in some ways. We still have a long way to go. I'm begging the viewers to educate people, to stand up for yourself and say, this is what's going on with me. It's not a weakness. It's a brain-based disorder. Maybe disorder is not a great word to use. I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to. But we have to educate the professionals. If there were people in the higher ups in secondary and above education, professional schools, medicine, dentistry, all that, legal, and say, this is what's going on with this person. This is how we can help them. This is how we can help them get through medical school. There's a lot of people with ADHD who can't get through medical school because they can't study. They can't focus.
But would be very compassionate. Obviously,
they would.
yeah.
A lot of
You
ER
need
docs.
specialists for sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell me before we wind up a little bit about Queen of
Which parts? The book, my group, I have a lot of.
the book and the group? Tell me.
Okay, the group came out of the book. I wanted to have a cost-effective. A lot of coaching was very expensive, and I thought, that's wrong. I wanted to develop a program for people who couldn't afford one-on-one coaching. By having group coaching, I can bring the cost way down and be affordable to most people. Not everybody, of course, but a lot of people. So that's where that came from. The book came from, I wanted to dig really deep into what is the inner experience of a woman with ADHD. And I talk about the inattentive woman in this book, the inattentive woman and her best friend who is hyperactive and impulsive, and how that plays out. Because a lot of people don't know. If you're a hyper impulsive person, you may not quite understand the world of the inattentive daydreamer and vice versa. Like my daughter, how does she keep moving? Oh my gosh, I can't. We're both ADHD. The book was, let's talk about the type of ADHD person. And then I go into very specific ideas on how to manage life with ADHD, relationships, being a mom, cooking, laundry, things, work issues, but I hope, in a very friendly, kind way with a deep understanding because I live it. I wanted to write about what I live. People seem to react in a positive way when they hear my story.
One of the hardest things I think for a parent with ADHD is to get along with a child with ADHD because it seems like you're always bumping heads. Do you have a secret for us or great advice on how to handle that?
Yeah, that's in the book too. But one is to take care of ourselves. We hear this all the time and it's boring. Okay, I know I should eat well. I know I should exercise, get enough sleep, blah, blah. But it goes beyond that. What I did to save myself, because my daughter has a severe form of ADHD, is to take off. Get somebody in the house so that you can calm yourself down in the bath with gentle music, or get the hell out of town. I would actually leave town for a long weekend. I couldn't leave her for long because she has other issues besides ADHD. She was very difficult. But to save ourselves, you can't help another person if we can't help ourselves. That's one thing. And one is, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, and there's not many of us, and I was very lucky I could be, and I wanted to be. I was fortunate in that way. But if you can't, or you feel like you need the stimulation of a career. Even if you're home, this is what I did. I brought a babysitter in the house, even when I was home, or when I came to homework, which was, oh my gosh, even if you don't have a kid with ADHD, but you have ADHD, that was awful. So what I did, my daughter had an IEP, but it's
individualized education plan, right?
So getting special help in school. What I got, and I can't believe I did this, I insisted at one of her meetings that all of her homework was to be done in school.
Oh, man. Oh, man, I wish I knew.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I got that. And then before that happened, I hired like a high school or a college kid to do homework, so I didn't have to go to the...
So smart.
And
it's hard sometimes to realize that you're not the best person to be in charge of something like that because of pride. And yeah,
isn't that so hard? You want to be a good parent. You understand ADHD because you live it, but you're not doing well raising a child with ADHD. And that's when we have to just let go. So hard for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Let go of these expectations we have as moms, because we're a different kind of mom and we have a different kind of kid. So I always say, change your expectations of yourself, of your family, of your child, how your house looks, how you manage your life, and let it be okay. Let it be okay. That can take a long time.
Change your expectations. That's wonderful advice, because so many of us are just enslaved by our expectations. This has been great.
Do you have any advice on how people could identify possible children with inattentive ADHD? That is one of our focus, because we're always told it's so hard to identify them. I'm tired of hearing that.
How do we identify our child that might have ADHD? What kind of behaviors?
Inattentive.
What? Inattentive. Okay. I was an inattentive kid. Focus on school. That would be one area to look at. Visit the classroom. I did that with my other daughter because I had concerns for a while. I was looking at her, and was she paying attention? Was she looking at the teacher? How are their friendships? Is she able to stick with a friend and be able to work? There's that back and forth in relationships. Was she able to experience whatever, going to the movies or playing outside, 50-50, give and take? Or was she lost? Is our kid lost in fantasy? Is it all one-sided? Is this child talking too much? That's another big red flag. There's a lot of things to look for, but the inattentive, I was a heavy-duty reader, and I was in my own space, and I loved it. People go, oh, she's just an introvert. It was more than that. I was daydreaming away my life, and nobody saw that. They just thought, oh, she likes to color for 5 hours a day.
Do you think you lost something from not being diagnosed till much later?
Oh, yeah. I did well in school up until a certain point. When I was very young, teachers liked me. I was an agreeable kid. I didn't want my teachers angry with me, so I did very well. But then we moved. And when I moved, my academics went down the toilet. Nobody understood why. I thought it was just I lost interest, but I couldn't keep up anymore. Couldn't. And so I shut down completely academically. I didn't do homework.
That was from age.
It was 6th grade. We moved 6th grade.
Yeah, middle school. Yeah.
11th grade. I did not do homework. I did not study. I did not do a lot of things, and nobody knew why. There was anxiety. There was that component. Checked out, completely checked out, until I went to college, when I could take classes that were of interest to me. So it was beyond my imagination to think, oh, if I studied, I might understand what's going on in class. But instead, I just turned off my lights. Had I been identified in those days, nobody was, but had things been different, I would have soared in school. And along with bad grades comes poor self-esteem.
For sure. Yeah.
My self-esteem from the beginning of my elementary years, where I was doing okay, I had lots of friends, the teachers loved me, la-di-da, to being the joke of the school. No, I'm not kidding. No one wanted to sit with me. No one wanted to hang out with me.
And no one figured out that something was wrong and needed attention. Yeah.
No. Had I gotten identified and treated at a young age, who knows what I would be like as an adult. But I know that I wouldn't have had the pain. It was a terrible pain from 6th grade to 11th grade of not fitting in, not knowing what's going on. I was in a dream world. What are you doing? And I didn't even know how to apply for college. A friend of mine's mom taught me what to do. Oh, I guess I need to do that in 11th grade. Oh, yeah. That's why it's so important if you have ADHD. At least 50% of adults with ADHD will have a kid with ADHD. You want to look at your children and say, is there something going on here? If you're not sure, talk to teachers and read and go to webinars, podcasts. We don't want our kids to go through what many of us have gone through, being missed.
I wish you hadn't gone through the pain. But on the other hand, I'm sure it makes you much more of a compassionate coach and therapist and activist today because you see the pain that other people are going through and you want to help them.
Avoid that kind of pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's painful too to hear it, to hear me talk it out and say, oh my gosh,
Me too.
All those lost years.
I'm still coping with it. I just applied for a job I really wanted. I feel my ADHD got in the way. I was too eager or too enthusiastic about it or too, you know what I mean? I'm constantly coming up against it, even as I feel like I figured it out.
It travels because you can't just dismiss all those early years.
Exactly.
You can't just dismiss it. That's part of who we are. And that's why I think therapy is so helpful to go back to those years and understand yourself better.
For sure.
A lens of unidentified, untreated ADHD.
Yes. And how people were reacting to you. And you were perplexed that they were reacting that way.
Nobody wants to sit with me.
I know.
It was a nice thing. I didn't do anything. I didn't call people names or kick them when they were looking. Yeah, I just didn't fit in and socially awkward. I was tall and gangly and bumping into things. So, yeah, who wanted to hang out with a kid like that?
I'm just so impressed at everything you've accomplished, Terry. It's an honor to talk with you today.
I'm glad that you invited me. This is a wonderful thing that you guys are doing. We need this so much.
This has been a production of Inattentive ADHD Coalition. Check us out at iadhd.org and see how you can help us by donating or by spreading awareness about inattentive ADHD. Thank you.